Brothers and sisters, while they are busy making America great again, we need to get about the business of making reading great again. Hey y'all, hey, I'm Anne Marie and I'm the founder and owner of the AntiHR and HR consulting company that provides employee-focused consulting. I spent over 25 years managing and overseeing human resources, and I am also a licensed attorney. While I do not provide legal advice, I share my insights based on my multiple years and deep understanding of how HR really works. My niche is teaching employees not just how to recognize discrimination and other wrongdoing in the workplace, but how to leverage that recognition into negotiating a paid exit, severance without having to hire an attorney or file a legal claim. This is something that HR routinely does, but I'm sure they've never told you about it because HR is not your friend. So before we dive in, make sure you like this video, comment constructively, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video when a new one drops. So today I want to talk to you guys about something that has been weighing heavily on my mind of late: the importance of making reading great again. I believe that we are facing a critical thinking and critical listening gap in our society. But what concerns me most is how this gap is showing up in our community and how it impacts our ability to consume information effectively, especially on social media. And I think social media has a lot to do with it, this gap that I just mentioned. These platforms are designed to feed us little sound bites, several minute clips, quick posts, and they expect us to process all the information that comes at us with critical thinking and critical listening skills that many of us haven't fully developed or are not exercising. Honestly, I don't think the intent is for us to try to use it. It actually doesn't want us to use it. If the recent Tabitha Brown situation has confirmed anything for me, it's that there is a significant critical thinking gap in our society. Same for the recent issues and events of last week on September 10. We are not using our critical thinking skills well or at all in many cases. Instead, many of us just react to things immediately without being thoughtful about what we are hearing and seeing. And I worry about our ability to function effectively and protect ourselves in these times when that gap is being exploited. There are a lot of questions we should ask when we consume content that we don't ask. Here's the thing. The default reaction for so many of us online is anger, not understanding. We don't pause to ask first and foremost, why is this person saying this? What is motivating them to say it? Next, does this have anything to do with me or my life? And if it does apply to me, then I need to ask, who does it benefit if I take position X versus position Y? How does it benefit them or me to believe or take the position they're taking or promoting? And if the content doesn't apply to you, then moving on to the next thing or closing the app altogether and maybe reading a book is a much better option than engaging and getting yourself riled up and angry about something that has absolutely nothing to do with you and doesn't even apply to your everyday life situation. We can do all of that without getting angry or offended, and we can also take a beat before running to the comments section. We've already talked about how those comments in those comment sections can now be weaponized, because what you type there lives forever. Even if you delete it, it's not really gone. So formulate your thoughts carefully. Another point I want to make is this. The reality is that many of us do not know how to engage in critical thinking. And that's not me being elitist or thinking I'm better or smarter than anyone. The reality is that in the United States, especially the school system, was never designed to teach you to think critically. It was designed to turn you into a worker inside of a white supremacist system. And that's not just my opinion, that's history. Horace Mann, often called the father of public education, built a system in the 1800s that was meant to create obedient, disciplined workers for the factories of the industrial age. The goal was never to make you an independent thinker. It was to make sure you could read instructions, follow orders, and show up on time to work. There's even a private school in Manhattan named after Horace Mann, which I think is ironic given how little most people know about the real origins of his ideas. And let's be clear, when a lot of these systems were created, they weren't even intended for people like us, people that look like you and me, to participate, especially in the South. We weren't even part of the equation. It wasn't until after the civil rights movement, when more of us finally got access to higher education, that new barriers started to go up. That's when tuition costs skyrocketed. That's when tests and other gatekeeping measures became more widespread. There was a time in some places when you didn't even have to take an entrance exam to go to law school. Did you know that? But when Black people started to gain access, suddenly tests became required for pretty much everything. Suddenly costs went up. Suddenly all these new hoops appeared. And those barriers weren't an accident. They were built deliberately to limit our access. Now, I don't believe you have to go to college to be a critical thinker. You can absolutely develop that muscle and skill on your own. But the reality is that college is often the first place where people are introduced to the idea of independent and critical thinking, to courses and conversations that challenge what they've always been taught. And that's exactly why the current occupant of the White House spends so much time attacking universities and higher education. He hates the idea of inclusion and equality and equity. He knows those principles are often first introduced to people in college, and he and those behind him, really pulling the strings, want to take that away. For most people, if you don't go to college, you may never be introduced to critical thinking at all, unless you were fortunate enough to have a standout teacher in high school who sparked that for you. But for most of us, especially as Black people and Black women, we don't get that in high school. Our brains don't really open up to the questioning of what we are told and taught until college, if we even get the chance to go. And fewer people are getting that chance. That means many people simply never learn how to critically think and listen, and that's just the reality. One way to get there on your own, though, is through reading. Actively engaging with ideas, visiting the library, picking up books, that's where you begin to exercise those muscles. Which brings me back to the idea of making reading great again. One of the greatest gifts my parents, who moved to the United States from the Caribbean, ever gave me was the love of reading. Every Sunday, my dad would take me and my siblings to the Brooklyn Public Library, and he would let us borrow all the books that we were allowed to take under their rules about how many books you could check out of the library at once. And I always took the most books of all my siblings. Sometimes I would take the maximum for myself and then take more books through them so that I could read everything that I could get my hands on. I realize now that one of my father's primary motivations for taking us to the library every Sunday was to get us out of my mom's hair, because we were probably getting on her nerves by Sunday. But whatever the reasons were, I am extremely grateful to my dad for taking us to the library. It was a ritual. It was something we got to do with him, even though usually he left us all together in the children's department. And then he went off to read whatever books he wanted to read. And he would always just tell us to stay together. And then he would come back and get us, and we would check out the books that we had found for that week. It's a really great memory of mine. And really, in light of everything happening right now, making reading great again is critical. The demise of Charlie Kirk last week, and how the right is already trying to make him into a martyr, using his name for fundraising, etc. I am convinced more than ever that we have to get back to reading books so that we can critically think a little bit better as a society. But I am most concerned about us in this society. Too many people don't see the connection between this tactic and similar tactics used by the Germans in the 1930s. That is, making martyrs out of people who don't deserve to be martyrs. History is repeating itself in plain sight. That's why on the updated AntiHR Reading List, you'll find The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich and works by Hannah Arendt. Ms. Arendt is the person who coined the phrase, the banality of evil. You will also find books by Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and many others, voices that have been warning us about who and what the United States really is for a very long time. and about the dangers of white supremacy and fascism. Because if you really want to understand how the past is prologue, you need to study the history of authoritarianism, propaganda, and the truth about this country, and the truth about how these things have played out throughout history and how they have been utilized, not just in the USA, but all around the world. And I've also added 2 specific selections that speak directly to critical thinking and how to consume social media more critically, as well as how constant exposure to these platforms impacts our brains. Because if we don't understand how these tools are being used on us, we'll keep falling into the same traps. This is why I believe we need to make a real commitment to making reading great again as a community. Because here's the truth. As a society, we just don't read anymore. And as a community, we don't read enough. Libraries are empty except for folks who need shelter or free internet connection. And that really breaks my heart because I really love libraries and I love reading. One of the reasons that I created the Anti-HR Book Club is because of my love of reading. And our last book club session just happened on September 13. We had a wonderful conversation with Tammy Triolo, also known as the Delusional Influencer on TikTok, about her book, The Empathy Gap in Black and White. It's a really great book, and we had a wonderful conversation about the subject of empathy and why certain groups have such a difficulty with it. In the book, Tammy discusses why there is an empathy gap between Black and white people, what Black people can do to keep our empathy, and what others can do in order to develop some on their own part. It's a really great book, and it was a wonderful discussion. While I don't plan to host any additional book discussions in 2025, I am already working on 2026, and I will announce to my subscribers and community members when we will have another book club discussion. But I'm really excited and happy to share that the books that we discussed this year have been added to my updated AntiHR reading list. The new reading list is now available. It will be linked to the description of this video, and I am working on also posting it to my website so that you can find it there as well. It's completely free to access. You can just check it out and grab books by directly linking to the books through the reading list. Or you can just go to your favorite Black-owned bookstore and buy the books there. And here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. These issues around the need to read more and to critically think isn't just something I notice on social media. I notice it in my own work as well. Through my discovery calls, I've seen firsthand how many of us are not reading and absorbing information the way we should. The calls are clearly noted in my time zone, and people have to check a box acknowledging that fact that they understand that before they book. Yet time and time again, folks still show up or log in at the wrong time, and some even get upset with me when the truth is they didn't read, or they didn't process what they read, or maybe they can't even tell time properly because they've gotten so used to just skimming and scrolling. People have gotten so used to skimming and scrolling and not reading things in detail. It's become a real pet peeve of mine, but more than that, it's a warning sign. Social media is rotting our brains. That's my opinion. We are losing the ability to focus, to read carefully, to absorb and apply information. And in my opinion, it's even worse for those that are younger than me in the younger generations. And that's exactly why we need to get back to reading books and getting all the young people around us to do the same. One thing that I have personally committed to restarting this weekend is my social media fasting on Sundays. That means no social media at all, including my favorite, YouTube. We have to absorb information from all of these places very carefully and thoughtfully because they have all bent the knee. Make no mistake about it. Whatever platform you are watching this on, it has already bent the knee. They are all obeying in advance. They are all working in service to powers that are not working in our interest. Critical thinking is not just necessary right now. Critical thinking is really critical at this point. And too many of us are not availing ourselves of any of it. So please check out the new and updated Anti-HR reading list. And especially check out the 2 books that I've added near the end of the list relevant to critical thinking and interacting with social media using critical thinking. The list is attached to the description of this video and will also be posted on my website. And while you're at it, please, please, please subscribe to my website and consider joining my anti-HR community. Our access to information that is not interfered with is going to get smaller and smaller. So we have to have other ways of communicating with each other and absorbing information besides social media. Please read books so you can learn and understand history before it is erased and rewritten. Read a book and make reading great again, because what you know, they cannot erase. This is also why I've launched a new line of anti-HR merch to help spread the message, make reading great again. If you agree with this principle, support my work by checking out the merchandise. It's in my store. I've got mugs, t-shirts, and I'm working on hats. It's a powerful way to spread the message and a simple way to support this platform. All the links are in the description of this video, as well as on my link tree. Links to my online store are in the description of this video. If you've enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like, comment, but do so constructively, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when my next video drops. As always, this is Anne-Marie, reminding you that HR is not your enemy, but they are definitely not your friend, but I am. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.